Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is our NFL preview show, Week 14. We just finished Week 13. The Monday night game finished last night. New England took care of business. They beat New York. They are the top seed in the AFC. But we're going to look at the Week 14 games. We've got four that we're going to feature. There's a couple of games that we may want to talk about, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Joey Clinkscales, our general manager, our personnel director, and lead scout. He does everything for us. Joey is our expert non grata. And then Brian LeBel, our NFL and NCAA analyst, is with us. Thank you both for being here. Joey, first and foremost, Week 14, the temperature is picking up. Even though outside it's colder, the reason for playing your best football really begins in December, and the implications obviously have January and playoff ramifications written all over it. What was it like for you when you were getting into December, making sure you revved up the last 5-4-3 games of the season?
Well, it depends on where I was. In Pittsburgh, it was awfully cold when I lived there. And in Tampa, it was awfully warm. It felt good, although we weren't winning any games in Tampa. Maybe that was the reason why. However, this time of year, it's you're preparing for the playoffs, those teams, and you're making a push. So those teams that have critical games this week, and if they're critical this week, they'll be critical all the way through the end of the season because they're usually bubble teams. So they'll give you their best throughout the remaining 5 games. And those teams that are out of the wild card picture will try to upset some teams and maybe get in. But everybody's got something to play for because guess what? You're putting film. You're putting your resume on tape, and with free agency, with the ability to be cut. So everybody's got something to play for. Some people play harder than others, but all the young guys will give all they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, you've got a couple of things here where there have already been a few coaches that have been let go. There will be a few at the end of the season. And as Joey said, you're fighting for a job, not maybe just with the team that you're with, although you'd like to stay there. From a contractual standpoint, if you're not a big cap hit, you could be released. And then what you do throughout the remainder of the season will be seen by others.
Also, you have a lot of contracts at back-end incentives, too. So a lot of guys are trying to hit their numbers, right? So you're still going out there, still trying to hit your catches, hit your tackles, hit your touchdowns, your completions, whatever you got to do. Because there's, in a lot of cases, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on the line for a lot of these guys. So, a lot of reason to keep playing, even if you're on a bad football team. You said the whole playing for a job next year, but there's still a lot on the line for a lot of these guys the rest of the way this season.
Joey, when you were in Tampa Bay, there's the video of Rob Gronkowski getting a chance to make an extra $1 million because he needed one more catch, and he's on the sidelines and he's talking to some guys. He goes, I need $1 million, one more catch. And Brady gets in the huddle and just says, just go run out in the flat. And he hits him, and everybody on the team was patting each other on the back. There are some teams that don't welcome that. There are cap guys that are in charge of all that, and guys will sit. I know it's happened in the past, but I love the fact that everybody on the team, and especially a Super Bowl contender that Tampa was when Brady was there, when Gronk was playing for him, they're willing to open the wallets in a certain way. That builds camaraderie that pays massive dividends, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, you usually the players usually know where they are by the time they're in week 16 or 17, exactly what they need to hit those incentives. Yeah. And when from a team perspective, when you're budgeting, you have to build in all the incentives. Okay, so that's already budgeted in. If you don't reach it, that's fine, but it has to be budgeted in your cap that all the incentives that are there, that all the players are going to reach those incentives. So they're already budgeted in for the year.
And just for clarification, if Gronkowski didn't get that catch and get that extra $1 million, that money goes back into the cap for the following year. It doesn't go back to the owner. He doesn't get to keep it. So I think it's pretty interesting how that has changed over the years in a way that's more positive for the players and more justifiable from an ownership standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Without question, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's with the collective bargaining and the Players Association, all that was collectively bargained in there. So, while the owners will, depending on your ownership group, a lot of owners are pushing for the players to get as much money as possible because, they work so hard. And especially if you're on a winning team like Philly or Kansas City, those owners are pushing for those players to hit those incentives. But they put them in there for a reason, to keep those guys playing throughout the season.
Yeah, you play well, great. This is what you're going to get. You play better than that, you want a little more money, you work it out in your contract, and we'll adjust for you.
Yes.
We'll adjust. We'll make it happen. Well, let's collectively bargain our thoughts and put them together. A lot of games this weekend have playoff implications and divisional rankings ramifications as well. But let's start with a game that has something to do with wild card. We're not really going to feature this one, but Dallas ends up going to Detroit. They'll be playing in Ford Field, 8:15 on Thursday. Both teams hosted a Thursday night Thanksgiving game. So there's no real advantage from a time perspective in terms of, how much rest you get. They both played on the same day, no, not at the same time. But Dallas at 6-5-1 goes to Detroit. They are 7-5. Detroit is 4-2 at home. Dallas only 2-4 on the road. Any thoughts about this one, Joey, before we go to the featured games? But this one obviously is semi-important in terms of, both teams, it's critical. But in the overall, it may not be one of those ones that we're going to spend a whole lot of time with.
Well, I think, as you said, this is a critical game for both teams, especially Detroit, in my opinion. I mean, Dallas still has a ways to go. They're on the outside looking in, and but Detroit's right on the cusp. They need to win this game because they can't afford to get too far behind Green Bay and Chicago in this division. So it's going to be critical for them. Dallas, on the other hand, if they win, it just gets them a step closer to maybe getting in. But, they still have a long way to go from a numerical standpoint to get in. But so this is a really critical home game for the Lions.
Brian, the passing yards is number one in the league for Dallas. Rushing, they're 13th, so kind of middle in the pack. Scoring, they're second in the league at 29.3. It's the defense that's really been giving them their issues. They played better last week, but they give up 28 points a game. Oddly enough, that's exactly what they gave up against Kansas City. They're 31st in terms of defense. What needs to bend or break? Dak's already been playing well. He's got his receivers that are getting open, and he's finding them. But Dallas still at 6-5-1. They haven't proven that they have the ability to shut anybody down with the consistency that you need to have for the playoffs.
I think a good mix of running the football, moving the ball down the field, I think is going to be key for them to keep their defense fresh, keep them off the field, and keep the Lions' offense off the field as well. I think that's the big, if you watch the Green Bay tape from last week, the Packers did a lot of that. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They ran the ball well. They ate up a ton of time of possession. I think that's kind of the staple, what the Cowboys need to do if they want to figure out a way to win this game. This is kind of desperation time on the flip side if you're the Lions, because the Packers beat them twice, so they own that tiebreaker outright. They did beat the Bears, but depending on what happens, because Bears and Packers play this week, it's a game we're going to talk about in a little bit. But Cowboys are sneaking in, very, very surprising team the last month. We kind of wrote them off, but the Lions, this is a team a lot of people thought could be a heavyweight contender in the NFC, and right now they're fighting for their playoff lives.
Yeah, they sure are. And so are some others. But this is a Thursday night game. It'll be on Prime if you want to see it. Kick is at 8:15. Again, Dallas at Detroit. On Sunday, we've got a bunch of games that are going to be taking place at 1 o'clock, including Seattle and Atlanta. Cincinnati goes to Buffalo. Tennessee is at Cleveland. Washington goes to Minnesota. Miami is at New York. New Orleans is going to play in the NFC South against Tampa Bay. And then the first game that we're going to feature, again, this is also at 1 o'clock. It is a CBS game, Indianapolis and Jacksonville. Joy, I'll start with you. Indianapolis at 8-4. They're 2-3 on the road. Jacksonville is 8-4 as well. They are 4-2 at home. Your thoughts here on this one? Obviously, playoff implications and who's going to be in first place at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, the Colts have actually been reeling a little bit lately. I mean, they're on a 2 or 3 game losing streak after starting off so well. Jacksonville, on the other hand, they play better at home than they do on the road, but they've played fairly well lately. Not a lot of huge numbers offensively. I mean, it wasn't a necessarily a pretty game versus the Titans last week, but they found a way to win. But the Colts are the team that I'm a little bit concerned about. I think the Colts need to win this game. I think it's good for their psyche. I think it's good for the players in the locker room. I think they need to get back to the basics, which are handing the ball off to that big-time running back that they have, and keeping Daniel Jones upright. Now, he's been injured. He's got that fracture in his leg that he's playing with. But, again, if they can run the ball, control the time possession against the Jaguars, who actually have a pretty good defense, I do think they'll be able to win this game.
Joey, real quick before I move on to Brian, you mentioned the broken leg or a broken bone in his leg for Daniel Jones. He's already thrown for over 3,000 yards. They are 6th in the league in passing. They're 6th in the league in rushing. They're 1st in the league in scoring. They're 9th in the league in defense, at least in points given up at 20.8. Is it the offensive line? Is it the quarterback? Is it the running back? Is it the ability to push and get the running game going? Is it protecting your quarterback? Is the defense just kind of getting tired and not doing some things that they were doing earlier in the year? Or is it little pieces of everything to where they've lost 3 of the last 4?
I think it's little pieces of everything. They made some trades, and the corner that they traded for from the Jets, he's out, injured. He's got an injury. They lost another player on defense. Offensive line, I think they lost a guy on the offensive line, and they have a really good offensive line. So I think it's been a combination of all that plus the injury to Daniel Jones, which kind of limits what he can do. But I'll say this: they're in the top 5 or 6 in passing in the league, 6 or 7, whatever the numbers you just gave. His resurrection has been a little bit like the quarterback from who's in Seattle now, who was in
Sam Darnold,
with the Vikings last year. So his resurrection is coming. I think a breath of fresh air in the new system has really done him well, and I think they have a lot of confidence in him. And I think that's why he's going out and playing. Obviously, he's playing for another contract because he signed a 1-year deal. However, he has done a lot of things. He has not really beat the team. He hasn't put the team in a bad situation like some of the other young quarterbacks have done this year. So I think from that standpoint and the things that they like to do offensively, I think that was a really good signing for them.
Yeah, they're in the top 10 in every category, Brian. If you look at Jacksonville, they're 21st in passing, which is below average. They are 11th in rushing. That's okay, good. They're 11th in scoring, and they're 12th in terms of defense. So fighting for the first place, are they playing with house money? I want to start with Jacksonville. I want you obviously to follow up on any of the things that Joey said regarding the Colts and where they stand right now. But as average as we've watched them play, they still have won 4 of the last 5. They're getting hot when they need to. Jacksonville.
Yeah. And the crazy part is I don't think, they're anywhere near their best. I think Liam Cohen's done a really good job. I think that the beginning of the season, they were kind of figuring out who they were, right? And they were kind of treading water. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played consistently well. He's had games where he's looked really good, right? He's looked like a number 1 overall pick, and he's had other games where the turnovers are a factor, and they haven't quite figured it out. And they kind of had to find their identity as a team. And I think it was about a month ago when they beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, and I think that was huge for them because they're still kind of a relatively young team around the board. A lot of confidence, identity builder. We can play defense, we can run the ball, and we can hang with the best of them. And I think they've taken that momentum and really kind of the opposite of what the Colts are. Because if you look at the Colts over the last month, they were really 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in all those categories, right? And they've dropped a handful of spots because if you look at the numbers, especially offensively, they have not been nearly as crisp in the last couple games. And I think some of that is an injury to Daniel Jones. But what Jacksonville's been able to do is they're trending upward at the right time. They're winning games at the right time, and they're hosting a game to take outright sole possession of first place in the division in Week 14. If you would have told their fans that at the beginning of the season, they'd have been thrilled.
Yeah, very interesting. We've been kind of on them about being high and low, and is Trevor Lawrence the guy? Is he going to be that long-term answer for the organization? Is Etienne going to be the runner that you want to depend on for the next 3, 4, 5 years? But the defense has played well enough to keep them in the games, and they're obviously playing for first place here. 1 o'clock on CBS. Identically at the same time at 1 o'clock on CBS is the next game that we're going to talk about, where 6-6 Pittsburgh goes to Baltimore to take 6-on-6 Baltimore Ravens. Guys, there are a lot of reasons to wonder which team wants to lose the division when they have a chance to get it. Baltimore, in my opinion, has played incredibly well over the past few weeks to get out of the hole that they dug early in the season. injuries, coaching, players, etc. This will be at M&T Bank Stadium. Joey, we'll start with you. Your thoughts here about one of those really tight races, but neither team has really been impressive to the rest of the league, enough so that even though it's 6-6, they're fighting for first place.
I think this is going to be a game of attrition, to be honest with you, because I think this will obviously it's a division game between two hated rivals. I think it's going to be a physically imposing game on both teams. Pittsburgh knows that they have to try to win this game. The Ravens know that they have dug themselves out of a hole to get to this point, despite the last 2 weeks since Lamar Jackson been back, not playing extremely well. So both teams have a lot to prove. I don't think we're going to get the – I think we'll get the winner of the division from this game, but I don't think it's going to be very pretty. I think whoever wins this game is really going to have to struggle all the way to the end to keep that to keep that momentum going, because one of these teams could win this weekend and lose the next weekend. They both of these teams have kind of played helter-skelter all year long. So while the winner of this game will definitely have a leg up, the loser of this game will still have a chance to win the division, because I don't have confidence that either one of these teams will play well enough, consistently enough down the stretch to run away with the division.
Well, they play each other twice before the season ends. The first will be this Sunday. Brian, it's called A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. It's Charles Dickens. It's not Edgar Allan Poe. And the Raven is obviously the symbol there for Edgar Allan Poe, a Baltimorean, and their love for his art was expressed in the way that they named their franchise. But they started out 1-5. They finish in the last 6 games. They're 5-1. So a little bit of tale of two cities in terms of their record. But I think Joey's right in that their inconsistency in Lamar. I mean, they're 28th in passing. They're 5th in rushing. With Derrick Henry, you better be 5th in rushing. They're 12th in scoring and 21st in terms of defense. Is that impressive enough to you to be worthy of a playoff spot?
I mean, if one of these teams, both of these teams have pretty abysmal numbers offensively, and someone's going to probably have to host a playoff game unless the Bengals can win out and something magically happens where these teams both fall off. But, go back to what Joey said. Lamar Jackson hasn't thrown a touchdown in a calendar month coming up on Sunday. It's been a month since he's been healthy for all 4 of those games. Derrick Henry's been the goal line guy. They've been decent enough in the red zone. They've been playing well enough to win games, but it gets to a point where you're kind of getting your footing again. I know he missed a lot of time, and they've had a bunch of guys miss time. They had guys on the defensive front, which their defense is much improved because they got healthy as well. They were really, really bad the first couple weeks of the season, but they're going to have to kind of figure it out. This might be make a playoff sort of scenario. They might host. Either one of these teams could host, but it probably will not be favored in any scenario where a wild card team. If you look at the wild card teams potentially in the AFC, they're going to be favored coming into either M&T Bank Stadium or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to play both of these guys, because it's just not a lot of consistency. If you watch the tape, especially the Steelers on Sunday, that Bills game was ugly. It was burnable tape. It was not good. The offense was bad. The Bills just ran all over them too. It was just one of those things where, hey, we're going to run the ball and you can't stop us. And, that proved to be true. The Ravens are up and down. They're kind of a mess, but they're in the other direction. They're winning games. So one of these teams has to win the game. I think, like Joey said, one of these teams is probably going to end up winning the division, but I don't really think either fan base is too thrilled with what's going on with these two AFC North rivals.
Yeah, they're kind of struggling. Joey, before we go, Adam Thielen, the wide receiver with the Minnesota Vikings, who was cut right after the game on Sunday. I'm not sure of all the reasons for that, but he was claimed just earlier today by the Steelers. They are 24th in passing. They're 28th in rushing. They are 15th in terms of scoring, so they're very average in terms of the rest of the league with 23.4 per game, and they allow 24.1, and that's 20th. So there's nothing that they have inside of the bottom half of the league other than points for, and that's just one slot. What impresses you about Pittsburgh to say, in spite of all this, or other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like the play? They're still in position where they can win it if they just keep on winning.
Well, you ask me what I'm impressed with offensively, and I'm finding I'm finding it tough to say anything that I'm really impressed with offensively. I think they have spurts when offensively they look pretty good and they can run the ball and they can throw the ball effectively. But for no real stretch of time, they struggle with the number 2 receiver. Fortunately, they've been able to get the ball to the tight end, especially the big kid from Georgia, who appears to be able to do a lot of good things because he's just such a massive guy with big hands. I mean, he doesn't have any vertical speed, but he's tough to bring down. And guess what? When it's cold outside and you got a 311-pound tight end, those little DBs don't want to tackle him. So that's a hard cover. That's a really hard cover. So if Adam Thielen can come in and just be functional, because he's not going to outrun anybody with his speed, but if he could just be another security blanket for the quarterback, someone that the quarterback can depend on, and catch 50-50 balls, because he's not outrunning anybody. So if he can catch the 50-50 balls, that will help open up the run game and help offensive line that, quite frankly, has been up and down and struggled at times.
He's 40 years old. 40. Are we going to blame Aaron Rodgers for not gelling with the wide receivers and the backs and the dump offs that he has and the tight ends in a better manner than what he's done?
No, I don't blame Aaron Rodgers. I think he's been their most effective offensive player at 41-year-old, in my opinion. What the Steelers have not done is improved the receiver core outside of DK Metcalf. Okay, once George Pickens left, they never replaced George Pickens. Okay, you have other guys, and they were trying to fill in guys, but they don't have a true number 2 receiver. And then the offensive line is young, and they've played well in spurts, but at other times, Aaron is running for his life. I mean, he's got offensive linemen sitting in his lap because we aren't getting any movement on the front line. So there are a lot of factors that go into the way the quarterback plays. It's not just how he's not doing this, he's not throwing this, he's not. There are a ton of other factors that go into that, and all those have been problematic for the Steelers this year.
Brian, your thoughts here on Pittsburgh? We've kind of looked at Baltimore pretty severely, and we're now dissecting Pittsburgh. What sticks out, or what is a thorn in the side for the Steelers at this point in the season, where even though they're fighting for first place, there's a lot of things that Steeler fans could say, this isn't going right for us?
Well, like Joey said, there's not a lot of consistency in this offense. And I think a lot of it is because there's not really an alpha pass catcher. There isn't the consistent teams, right? You look at the Lions, right? Their alpha is Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's who they're going to on 3rd and 8 when they need a big catch, right? When you look at the Ravens, the Chiefs, it's Rashee Rice. It's just DK Metcalf was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be we need a guy that can make catches and make plays on 3rd and 8, and they don't have that. It just hasn't been consistent. And I think they've tried to spread the ball around. They got a good group of tight ends. They maybe have the 3 best tight ends in the NFL. Each guy is very, very good at what they do, but not a ton of consistency, not a lot of star power on the offense. And it's just one of those things where the defense and the offensive line was supposed to be the bread and butter and kind of hide a lot of the problems on this team. And last week they got kind of exposed, and they haven't really been able to do that. So the Ravens are kind of in a similar boat the same way, right? There's not really an alpha pass catcher. It's kind of Lamar and Derrick Henry, and then everyone else just kind of, hope that maybe Zay Flowers can figure out, or Mark Andrews. But, the Steelers offense is kind of ugly to watch from time to time. There's not a lot of excitement. That's not really their forte. It's not something they've done, but
right.
At some point you got to have some consistency, and I got to have a guy that can make a play when I need it most.
All right. I'm going to ask both of you this, Brian, but you bring up an interesting point. You said that DK Metcalf come in and on 3rd down, make a catch. I'm going to challenge both of you. I don't bring DK Metcalf in for 3rd down. I want him to go deep and stretch the defense on 1st or 2nd down, don't I? Isn't that what? And I'll let you both answer real quick. But I got other guys that can be the 3rd down guy. But if I'm not stretching the defense and they don't have to drop back as far because there's no deep threat, I think it makes everything a lot more complicated in terms of the offense and finding holes that are in the defense to get open. Brian, real quick, just go to you, and then I'll ask Joey the very same question. Well,
if you watch him in the beginning of the season, Calvin Austin was the deep guy. He was the guy that was supposed to kind of take the top off the defense, and it worked for a little bit there, but, it's fizzled. The rushing attack hasn't been bad. I'll say Jaylen Warren has been very, very good. Kenneth Gainwell's been very, very good, but Um, you know, I do like if you watch DK's film last year with the Seahawks, that's exactly what he was. He was 3 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. It's a good day in the office for him. And you're just with Pittsburgh, you're not getting that. You know, he's gonna have 3 catches for 18 yards, and if he's lucky, he finds the end zone. But it's just, yeah, I mean, they're not able to stretch the field. Teams are able to stack the box. It makes everyone else look very, very bad off, especially because if you're an offensive lineman and they can put 7 or 8 guys up in the box up near the line of scrimmage every play, it's very, very difficult to deal with that. And you know, that's just become the norm for the Steelers as far as what they're facing, you know, each and every week on the defensive side.
Joey, same thing. DK Metcalf, first and second down. Someone's got to stretch the defense to keep them honest, and you got to go to them 2, 3. The Raiders for years, it was when Al Davis and from the 70s on, and you've been in Oakland and obviously the Los Angeles Raiders and now the Vegas Raiders. But that philosophy is you got to keep defense honest and stretch it so that it does allow you to open up on third down. Your same question to you. Well, what's your thought on DK and then the other issues that they're having offensively?
Well, part of the problem is they don't do a whole lot offensively. They're not too dissimilar to what Philly is doing. So their offense is pretty simple. They really need to get DK on the move more with motion and what have you, because where DK's lining up. He's always the X. That's easy to cover, especially if you're going to double him. Okay, so now you move him, you get motion, or you bring motion to his side. You give the defense a different picture because right now they know exactly what you're going to do. If he's not going deep, he's going short. I don't recall him catching many cross routes or comebacks all year long. So that's what I'm saying. The offense is really predictable right now. So I think you have to be able to have some type of variety in what you're doing and give the defense a different picture. And the Steelers aren't doing that.
Yeah, they're struggling. And guess what? That's why they're 6-6. They win one, they lose one. And that will get you in the playoffs if everyone else in the division is just a little bit worse off. Anyways, all right, this game we spent a lot of time on. CBS at 1 o'clock. Denver at Las Vegas, we mentioned the Raiders. That's a 4 o'clock game. That's on CBS as well. And the next game we're going to talk about, a 4:25 start on Fox. This is where Chicago at 9-3. Guys, this has been an amazing run that they've had. They're 5-2 on the road. They go to Green Bay. They play in Lambeau Field. They've done it for 195 years. Green Bay 8-3-1, right on their tails. And Joey at 4-2 at home. Green Bay is right there. I don't know if we've really been impressed enough with Green Bay, but guess what? We can't ignore them. They're still there, even though there's been some issues with Jordan Love, but the defense really has gotten better, and they keep proving it. With only 3 losses and a tie this year, it's been very difficult to score on the Packers.
Well, whenever you can play defense and win the line of scrimmage, you have a chance to be a really good football team, and the Packers can do that. But unfortunately for the Packers, the Bears have shown that they can do that some this year as well. Defensively, the Bears have really played well in the secondary, to be honest with you. And I think they either lead or they're the number 2 team in takeaways. So defensively, the Bears have played really, really good. Now, the Packers can rush the passer. Obviously, with Micah, he has, I think, 10.5, 11.5 sacks on the year so far. So he's moving up the charts. He's getting better. And but there are some things to really like about this game. Now, if it comes down to quarterback play, I'm probably taking Jordan Love over Caleb Williams, because Caleb has played great, but he's played good, not great. I think his completion percentage is like 58%. And 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that would have been pretty good. Today is the lowest completion percentage in the league, if I'm not mistaken.
He's 58.1. You're right, 58.1. Yeah.
Right. So so he's done enough. And he's made some key plays and some key throws. But I expect the Packers to win at home. But I do think this is going to be a battle because Chicago is a really good football team. They're a young football team. They're probably a little ahead of schedule record-wise to where they were, where you would expect them to be. But, that head coach has really made a difference in the play of the quarterback and the enthusiasm of the team. And you could tell that by the way they were excited in the locker room after last week's win. So this is a big game, and it's got the right time slot so everybody can see it. But I expect the Packers to win at home.
Packers are very good, Brian. You noticed that as soon as that Micah Parsons trade with Dallas took place. They became a Super Bowl contender for you, maybe not a favorite, but certainly one that was worth stewing over, if you want to put it that way. Let me go over Chicago first. They're 15th in terms of passing. Joey just talked about Caleb being good, not quite great yet, but they're second in the league in rushing. They average 153. They had 280 yards last week. They're 8th in scoring, but 25th defensively and giving up 25.6 points per game. What scares you if you're a Packer about what the Bears bring? For me, it would be they're going to run the football down our throats, or at least they're going to attempt to.
Well, they're plus 17 in the turnover category. They don't turn the ball over very much. I think the team that's second is the Texans at plus 9. They're tremendously good at taking care of the football, and they're tremendously opportunistic, like Joey mentioned in the secondary on the back end. They have a lot of interceptions, forced fumbles too, which it's tackling, it's gang tackling, it's getting after the football. This offense is pretty good. They score a lot. They might not put up gaudy numbers, but they find the end zone. They're consistent in the red zone, and I think they're in a lot of shootout type games because of that. Now, they have played down to some teams. Like if you go back and watch the Giants tape, the Giants probably shouldn't have been in that game, but they end up getting a win. It's always good when you can escape with a win, especially in the conference. But I think if on the Packers, if you watch the tape from last week, what they did to Philadelphia's front four, that scares me a little bit. And then the ability to maybe take Micah Parsons out of it and say, hey, listen, we don't have to deal with your pass rushing. We're just going to double team you and run right at you and maybe try to wear you down that way. And they've shown that they don't have to drop back very much to beat good football teams, which is what they did on Friday. Same can be said for the Packers, though. Jordan Love has kind of come alive, and, they were even winning when he was struggling, right? We were kind of giving him a hard time on the show. The numbers weren't great. The offense wasn't really – it looked very vanilla, relying a lot on Josh Jacobs, but he's been very, very good the last couple games, and I'm kind of torn on this game. I think it could be a shootout, but I also think both teams are going to be playing in the cold, and I think they're going to try to run the football and control the line of scrimmage. And like you said, the Bears showed last week they're very capable of doing that with the best of them.
Yeah. Could be 35-30, or it could be 10-9, depending on the weather, of course. And we're starting to get that December weather. Everybody that knows what it's like in Green Bay in December, guess what? It's going to happen. All right, so that game is at 4:25. It's on Fox. Another Fox game at 4:25 is the LA Rams going to Arizona. We're not going to feature that, but I did want to say Arizona's had so many close games. If they have another one at home, guess what? That's just what they do. But the Rams looking to bounce back after a loss last week. And then another game, if you guys don't mind, I would like to talk a little bit about. Houston goes to Kansas City. Not the first place division ramifications that we've been talking about with most of these other games, but obviously from a playoff standpoint, Kansas City at home, this is an 8:20 game on NBC. Kansas City's 5-1 at home. They're 1-5 on the road, but Houston is 3-3. They're 7-5 overall. And Joey, I'll start with you. Houston really needs to win this one. They can at least tie or take a lead if they win this game and the Colts lose. We talked about the Colts a little while ago, but Kansas City really needs this one more than probably Houston or anybody else in order to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Well, I think I think Kansas City is officially in playoff mode. They need to win this game. They need to build up a lead. So if somewhere down the line they slip, they still have a chance to get in. Right now, they're on the outside looking in on the playoffs. They aren't even a wild card team right now. They're on the outside looking in. So they need this game, because if they lose this game, then they're probably 2 games outside of the wild card. So that's with 4 games left. So that's a hard hill to climb. So Kansas City really needs to win this game, and it's going to be tough because we know Houston can rush the passer, as Josh Allen.
Yeah. And Kansas City, Brian, has had some issues on their offensive line, and Patrick's a little step slower than he was in the past. He doesn't have quite the same protection, and he's going against a Texans defense that is just, they're monsters. Yeah,
they're riding a lot of momentum too. They've won a couple of pretty big games back to back. You beat, the Colts and then the Bills back to back. That's huge for their playoff implications, because now they own tiebreakers over those teams, and they're kind of going the opposite direction of what the Chiefs are doing. They're winning games at the right time. The Chiefs are in a position where, hey, we're losing games we're not used to losing. We're not used to being in this position. Usually at this point in the season, they're 2 or 3 games up in the division, and they're just kind of coasting to see if they get the 1 seed. But this is kind of uncharted territory for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and I'm interested to see how they handle it. It's a very good defense they're going to be going up against. They're going to have a couple extra days to prepare after playing on Thanksgiving, but it's a daunting task in front of them. And I think that the Texans have a lot of momentum. I think they're very, very confident. I think D'Amico Ryans has those guys, foaming at the mouth, ready for this one. And I know it's not a feature game, but I think this could be one of the better games of the day. And I'm glad that it's in the Sunday night slot.
Well, after starting out 0-3, the Texans are 7 of their last 9 they've won. Defensively, they're the number 1 team in the league. They allow 16.5 points per game. So they're very impressive there. We've talked a little bit about that. But their scoring is a little below average. They're at 21st in the league, and they're at 21.9. So very interesting how that works out. They're 16th in passing, and they're 23rd in rushing. But they're finding ways to win. And obviously, winning 7 out of your last 9 is an important part of that. We'll see how that one turns out. Again, this is at, GEHA Field in Arrowhead Stadium. Again, 8:25 game for Sunday evening. The final game that we are going to look at, and let's talk a little bit about Philadelphia right now at the Chargers. This is going to be an interesting one because Philadelphia has been struggling at home a little bit, but they're 4-2 on the road. They're 8-4 overall. The Chargers are 5-2 at home, and they're 8-4 overall. So 2 8-4 teams looking to find a way to get that next win, to stay either on top or to stay at arm's length from the division leader. Joey, again, we'll start with you. Chargers have been on again, off again. They've had a lot of injuries, especially on the offensive line. Give me your thoughts here about LA.
LA will go as far as that quarterback will take them. Okay, so he had surgery on the finger on his non-throwing hand yesterday. So we'll be waiting with bated breath to see if he's playing this weekend. We probably won't find that out till later in the week. There's no need giving the Eagles any kind of edge on knowing whether the quarterback's up or down. So we probably won't know about that. But their running game has been solid. Their offensive line has been up and down. Ever since the injury to Alt, they've struggled a little bit there, which affected the running game, which has affected the passing game. Now they've made some plays in the passing game, but no real big plays. So the Eagles' defense is really good, especially up front. The linebackers are getting better. They're a little bit weaker in the secondary. They've lost some corners to injuries, and they've had safeties playing corner. So that being said, I think the Eagles can go in and steal a victory, especially if they can get the quarterback off the spot, which I expect them to, with a weakened offensive line that the Chargers have.
Yeah, I tease all the time. I played in Philly for a year. I know what it's like to be ahead and get booed off the field. But one way to make the local folks and all the fans really get back on your side is to go and win a game on the road. Brian, this is obviously an important game for the Eagles. Dallas is 2 games back. I get it. I'm just saying they're not looking back. They're looking to maintain that home field advantage and everything that has helped them get into the Super Bowl from what they went through last year and then even a few years prior to that. They have higher expectations. Do they have what it takes to be able to flip a switch and just all of a sudden turn it on in the middle of the season and then become the Eagles of old?
If they did, the offense wouldn't look like it is right now. I just, the defense was kind of the crutch that was holding him upright, right? It was just sort of the offense isn't there. We're going to figure it out. Super Bowl hangover, all these different things. But now it's week 14, right? The time for all that's gone. We've moved far beyond that. And I've said a couple of times at this stage, you kind of are what you are. And defensively, they're a very daunting team. They weren't on Friday, but if you look at the guys that got up front, if you look at the numbers they put up everywhere else in these other games, they've been tremendous. But, they've tried to go to A.J. Brown more over the last couple of weeks, and it's worked. His numbers are good, but they haven't really been winning. I think the biggest problem that I look at is the run game is not there. And I understand, Jalen's numbers are down and maybe teams are less inclined to put an extra guy in the secondary, and maybe they're, more comfortable putting someone else up on the line of scrimmage. But I think they need to be able to run the ball and play off of play action, take some deep shots down the field to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and get Dallas Goedert involved. Because when this offense was humming in the beginning of the year, they had a couple of weeks when Dallas Goedert was getting catches and he was, making plays in the red zone. They were scoring a lot of points. They need to get back to that. At this point, kind of just figure out what's working and what's not. Just get rid of what's not. So get your quarterback comfortable. I think the Chargers are going to try to do the same thing like Joey said. They're going to try to get Jalen off his spot, maybe force a turnover or two, because this Eagles team is I think they're favored by 1.5 points. They're still very, very good, and they're coming off a couple extra days rest. and they're going to be angry after what happened to them last Friday night in prime time.
Before we go, Joy, I just want to real quick point for the Eagles. They win 4 in a row to start the season. They lose 2. Then they win another 4 in a row, and then they've lost 2. So it's almost a mirror image of themselves in terms of their early record. They're 23rd in passing, 22nd rushing. They average 108 yards per game. I think that's a little low. It not just from below average. Saquon has 740 yards right now. At the pace he's going, he may not get 1,000 for the season. They're 19th in scoring, and their defense is 9th right now defensively in terms of the points given up. So they're not the same impressive team that they have been. But the running game, as Brian mentioned, that's a concern. Is Saquon quietly, does he have a hip or a quad injury? Is there something that we don't know that might be slowing him down? Because I'm used to seeing him jump over people backwards and sprinting to the outside and turning a 3-yard gain into a 23-yard first down. I'm not seeing that this year. And I'm not saying Saquon isn't a great athlete. I just don't know if he's got what we need to have in the tank right now to get them to where they need to be over the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, I think we're at the point in the season where a lot of guys are playing injured. Okay. If you're hurt, you're not playing, but if you're injured, you probably are playing. So I think he's injured a little bit. I can recall a few games back where it was an ankle or a hamstring or something that bothered him in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if that weren't the case. But they have really struggled on the offensive line. Their offensive line used to get they used to deplete guys and move guys off that line of scrimmage, and they just aren't doing that this year for injury reasons, for attrition, whatever you want to call it. I mean, their second best offensive lineman left in free agency to go to the Chargers, and he's struggling to play there. The kid that they signed from the Jets, the Becton, Mekhi Becton, and he's struggling there. So I'm sure they wish they had him right now. But that being said, their offense has no creativity to it. I mean, they are really struggling when you know exactly what they're going to do on offense with AJ and Devontae. It's a shell of itself. And obviously their old offense coordinator is now the head coach of the Saints. But this offensive coordinator and what they've done and their lack of imagination offensively has really cost them some this year.
Yeah, it's been an interesting plight, if you will. I think the fans and the rest of the league is saying, you guys have been the dominant force there for the past, 3 or 4 years, or at least right there playing for the championship. And this year, if I'm an NFC team, I'm going, we can take you. It's going to take a heck of a lot to do it. The champ usually doesn't go down very easily, and I don't think they're over yet. But I think other teams that are fresher and healthier and faster can take advantage of that. All right, we're looking at Week 14. We've looked at 4 really important games. We also talked a little bit about Dallas and Detroit being the first one. That's a Thursday night game. Indianapolis and Jacksonville, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, Chicago and Green Bay. We're also interested in what was happening Houston and Kansas City, both of those playoff implications for them. The winner will obviously have a much stronger chance to be a part of it with only 4 weeks remaining. And then this last game that we were going to talk about, Philadelphia at the Chargers. Joey, final thoughts here before we head out for our time to let the rest of the week transpire and going into Thursday night's game to begin Week 14 action, which is from December 3rd to December 9th this week.
This is a big weekend for coming up for a lot of football teams. Kansas City, the Chargers, the Eagles. This is a big weekend for the Cowboys, Detroit. This is a big weekend for a lot of teams because this can set the course for the last quarter of the season. And if you're behind the 8 ball going into the last quarter of the season, it's really hard to make up space.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before I forget, Brian, New England, New York, San Francisco, Carolina, they all have the last of the bye weeks. That's this week. They get a chance to rest and recover a little bit. But for the rest of the league, it's back to work, business as usual.
Yeah, a lot of teams right now, a lot of fan bases are saying, hey, we either got to win out or, we got to get as close to winning out and maybe need some help as possible. But Got to take it 1 week at a time. This is a good week to start. Week 14 is a good week to start. If your team needs a win, a lot of good games on the docket. A lot of good teams are going to find out who they are this week with their backs up against the wall. So, you got to start with 1 win at a time, and hopefully you're still playing once the buzzer hits week 18 and you're still, going into January and hopefully in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then we'll need Einstein's theory and abacus and a whole lot of milk of magnesia to be able to figure out who's going to get in going into that last week or two with this team wins, this team ties, this team loses, and then you get a chance to be in. So we're not there yet, but we're getting one step closer. And we appreciate you all being a part of the show. This has been 100 Yards of Football. That's the platform we're on, and this show is the NFL Preview. For week 14, I want to say thank you to Joey Clinkscales for being a part of the show. For Brian LeBel, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you being faithful observers and watchers. Please share our show, if you wouldn't mind, with others, and we hope you